You consider yourself a hard-working person who seeks your objectives. Great. But, and if I told you that this incessant search, this sensation of productivity, can be, in truth, the most sophisticated form of failure? The true failure, that one, that corrodes the soul without alarm, is not stumbling on the path, is never having chosen the path by yourself. Before exploring this uncomfortable idea, but liberating, click on like and subscribe. What we are going to unveil here can redefine your notion of success and purpose. There was a man, Earl Nightingale, whose voice on the radio crossed decades, carrying a simple message, however revolutionary, especially for an America that sought meaning after the shakings of the 20th century. He was not a distant academic, but an attentive observer of the human condition, someone who lived the scarcity of the Great Depression and the horror of Pearl Harbor. Nightingale spent years obsessed by a question: why so few reach a full and authentic life, while the vast majority seems to float adrift, reacting to circumstances instead of creating them? His conclusion was direct, almost brutal in its simplicity. The fundamental failure is not in the errors committed or in the opportunities lost. The failure, in its purest essence, is not thinking on your own account, not acting, based on a purpose defined by yourself. Is living in autopilot, is absorbing the expectations, the fears, the definitions of success of the exterior world and adopting them as yours, without questioning. Imagine a copious river, and you, instead of rowing actively, decide simply to let yourself be carried by the current. The water moves, you move with it, there is a sensation of displacement, of activity. But to where are you going, really? The current does not care about your dreams, your values, your deepest yearnings. It takes you to where it wants to go. Living without thinking by yourself is like this passive drift. You can be busy, productive even, fulfilling tasks and goals that were not chosen by you, that do not resonate with your essence. Is confusing movement with progress, occupation with meaning, like a tireless hamster running on the wheel, exhausted at the end of the day, but essentially in the same place? Is following the flow not by conscious choice, but by inertia, by fear of deviating from the herd, of questioning the status quo, of facing the vertigo of freedom of choice? Nightingale realized that the majority of people simply do not dedicate time to define what they really want from life, to use their most powerful faculty, the mind, in a deliberate and creative way. They react, fulfill tasks, follow scripts, but do not think in the deepest sense, that of architecting their own existence. This architecture of existence, this capacity of actively building one's own life, is what distinguishes us from mere automatons. Think in the philosophy of Sartre, and in existentialism. We are beings condemned to freedom, responsible for our own life projects. Ignoring this freedom, abdicating this responsibility, is the essence of the Sartrean bad faith, the escape from authenticity. And look around. We live in the era of programmed distraction, of the constant noise that muffles the interior voice. We are bombarded by notifications, by infinite feeds, by ready and packaged opinions for fast consumption. We are seduced by shortcuts, by ready formulas, by gurus that promise success without the effort of self-analysis, without the arduous and rewarding journey of self-knowledge. The pressure for conformity, for external validation in social networks, for incessant performance pushes us even further away from that sacred space where authentic thought flourishes. Social networks, ironically created to connect, many times disconnect us from ourselves, imprison us in echo bubbles, reinforcing prefabricated worldviews. Thinking by yourself, as Nightingale proposed, became an act of silent rebellion. In a world that screams for attention and conformity, introspection becomes subversive. It demands courage to turn off the noise, to silence the external voices, to face the momentary void of introspection, to dare to disagree with the comfortable consensus, to question the dominant narratives that are imposed on us at every instant, is an act of resistance against the tide of superficiality, a dive into the depths of the own being. Maybe you recognize this tension inside yourself, that uncomfortable feeling of being running a lot, but without knowing exactly to where. The sensation of fulfilling all the expectations, those of the family, of society, of work, but still feeling a void, a lack of authentic resonance with your own actions, is like using a borrowed clothing, elegant maybe, but that does not fit. You that does not truly warm you. You strive, dedicate yourself, maybe even collect external achievements, brilliant trophies that gleam under the spotlights. But in the silence of the night, when the lights turn off and you find yourself alone with yourself, the question echoes, is this effort truly mine? This life reflects who I am or who they told me to be. This restlessness is not a defect, it is a vital sign. Is your deepest self, your individuality, trying to break the crust of conditioning, screaming for authenticity, begging to be heard? Psychology teaches us about the importance of congruence, of alignment between our internal values and our external actions. This internal dissonance, this sensation of living a misaligned life, is source of suffering and anguish. The great turn of perspective that Nightingale offers us is liberating. The failure that we so fear, the punctual error, the rejection, the project that did not work, the negative feedback, is only feedback, valuable information in the course, inherent, part of the process of learning and growth. Think in Thomas Edison, in his numerous failed attempts before inventing the light bulb. Each failure was in truth a step forward, a crucial learning. The real failure, the chronic state that we must avoid at all cost, is the abdication of own thought, is the outsourcing of your internal compass, delivering the helm of your life to the hands of others, be them society, the family, or even self-help gurus that tell you exactly what to do and how to think. Is living a reactive life, a pale copy of what could be, a shadow without own substance. Thinking by yourself does not mean having all the answers, instantly, magically, but yes, having the courage to make your own questions, question the obvious, doubt the universal truth that they present you, is defining your north, your fundamental values, even if the map is still being designed, even if the path ahead is uncertain and nebulous, is deliberately choosing your path, even if it is steep and lonely, knowing that the authentic journey, even with its challenges, is infinitely more rewarding than the false security of a predefined path. The proposal then is not a quick solution, a magic pill for instant happiness, but a fundamental choice, a paradigm shift. The choice of activating your mind in an independent way, of assuming the control of your own thought, of pausing the automatic flow of information, the constant bombardment of stimuli, and asking, what do I really value? What principles will guide my decisions? What is my personal concept of a well-lived life? A life that resonates with my soul? Start small. Dedicate moments of your day to reflective silence, to meditation, to mindfulness, practices that reconnect you with the present and with your interior. Question the opinions that you accept passively. Investigate the origins of your beliefs. Challenge your own assumptions. Read not only to absorb information in an uncritical way, but to dialogue critically with the ideas, to form your own conclusions. Dare to define your own terms of success. Break the ties of the conventional definitions. Create your own metric based on your values and purpose. When you assume this posture, when you put yourself in the center of your own mental universe, something changes fundamentally. The fear of the judgment of others loses strength because your validation starts to come from inside, from your own conscience, from your integrity with yourself. The frustration of comparison, the envy of the success of others decreases drastically because your ruler is internal and personal. You compete only with yourself. in search of your best version. The inevitable stumbles, the errors, the failures cease to be seen as definitive failures, as the end of the line, and become essential part of the learning in a journey that has meaning for you, a journey built with your own hands, guided by your own compass. You stop being an effect of the circumstances, a mere spectator of your own life, and start to be the cause of your own trajectory, the author of your own history. This is the true success, not the absence of difficulties, of challenges, of moments of pain, but the constant presence of an authentic purpose guiding your actions, giving meaning to each step, transforming obstacles into steps towards a fuller and more meaningful life. The final question, therefore, is not if you are going to fail at some moment of your journey. You are going to. Failure is part of the human condition, is inherent to the risk of living and trying new things. The crucial question, the question that really matters is, are you failing in living the life of another person, in operating in autopilot, in following predefined scripts, in contenting yourself with thoughts that are not yours? Or are you daring to think, act, and build a path that resonates with your deepest truth, with your most authentic essence? What do you decide to start to build or deconstruct from this instant, from this exact moment? If this message provoked something in you, if it lit a spark of reflection, share it with whom also seeks more authenticity, with those who also yearn to live more conscious and meaningful lives. And continue with us, exploring the ideas that help us to live in a more conscious and meaningful way. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel to not miss the next videos. Until soon.